Hello, my name is Design Goes and welcome to another episode of our design series where we learn everything design. If you are new here and you've not subscribed to our channel yet, kindly subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit that notification button to get notified anytime we post a video. Today, we begin a new journey and a new series in the UI space, and then we are starting the overview of our UI software that we are going to use, and we are beginning with Adobe XD. So Adobe XD, first of all, I'm going to show you how to download the Adobe XD software, okay, for free. So first of all, you hop onto any search engine and you visit a site called igetintopc.com. into pc.com. You search for many search engine. It takes you directly to the landing page of I Get Into PC. Sometimes it takes you to a page or the Google page where you have numerous I Get Into PC links. You select the first link and it will bring you directly to this page. All right. So on this landing page, you have categories. You have software categories, operating systems, 3D CAD, graphic design, multimedia, development, antivirus education. And mind you, this is a platform for downloading softwares from gaming to educational to whatever software that it is. This is a platform for downloading them for free. So on your right hand, almost getting to the up corner of the landing page, there is a search bar. So in the search bar, we are going to type Adobe XD. So Adobe, and then we are going to hit the go. Wait a while, and then we have search results for Adobe XD, and we have 58 results for Adobe XD. From the previous to the current, from CC to the normal. All right, so you navigate to whichever that is compatible with your machine, and then you choose, you download. So this is how you download. So for instance, if this is Adobe XD CC free download, this is what you want that you are pleased with. You just right click. It brings you to the details of the software, and please remember to read about the features of the product that you are downloading and the system requirement for that particular package you are downloading. So you read all those. Adobe CC free download, Windows and Mac OS technical setup. So you make sure you look at all these, and then right beneath here you have the red button saying Windows version and then Mac OS version. So whichever that your computer or your system is, you choose the one that suits it. So for instance, Windows, you wait a while, it will take you to a different tab, and here it says your request resource will be granted from Linux server. Password is always igetintopc.com. So remember this, when you download the zip file and then you are trying to install, it will ask you for a password, and this is the password, igetintopc.com. so you download, you click on the download now to get the software being downloaded. So let's try and see. Download. It takes you to another tab and then saying downloading your file, please wait. Up on the right hand side here, you can see one download in progress. This means that your software is being downloaded, but I've already downloaded and installed the software, so there is no need for me to download it again. Okay, so this is how you are going to get your Adobe XD to be downloaded and installed. Next, I'll be taking you through a tour on the interface of the Adobe XD. Stay with me. Welcome back. So this section of the tutorial, we are going to have an overview of the interface of the Adobe XD, software. Okay, so on your left hand side are tools that will enable you to carry out your work seamlessly in the Adobe XD. Beneath it are also other options, and on the right hand side too are also options, transformations, components, and all that options that are going to also help you to manipulate and guide and transform whatever that you are going to do here. So this is basically the interface. So we'll begin with the artboard. All right, when you come into Adobe XD, this is what we call an artboard. And then to be able to move around the artboard, you would either scroll down or up your mouse to scroll it vertically. Okay, but if you want to zoom in and out of the artboard, you can either select the zoom tool, and then when you hover over the zoom icon, it tells you zoom. So there are two ways by which you can select the zoom option. It's either you click the zoom option, or when you hover over it, it gives you Z in bracket. That means that the shortcut for selecting the zoom tool is Z. You've selected your zoom and it's a plus, so you left click and then it zooms in. To be able to zoom out, you have to hold the Alt to change from plus to minus, and then you click and it is going to zoom out. So you can zoom out whatever way you want, and then you can zoom in whichever way that you want. Now this is our artboard. The amazing thing about Adobe XD is that whenever you bring in an artboard, you can change the name of the artboard. So for instance, you are designing a UI for a particular website. The home page of the UI is different from the block page of the UI and other pages of the UI. So to avoid any form of confusion, you can rename it. So let me show you what exactly I'm talking about. Now let's move on to the artboard tool, which is the A. The shortcut for selecting the artboard is the A, and the A is in brackets. So anytime you hover over a particular tool and then there is a particular alphabet in a bracket, it means that it is the shortcut for selecting it. So we'll select the artboard, and on the right hand side we have numerous options for the artboard. We have the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and these are the mobile versions of our artboards. So let's try and see what happens. Let's choose iPhone 14 Pro Max, and right away we can see that an artboard of an iPhone 14 Pro Max has been created next to our original artboard that came along with it. But here we are not going to work on an iPhone 14 Pro Max, so we'll take it out. The same way that happens, whichever phone type that you select over here, for instance Google Pixel 7 Pro, 6 Pro, and it is going to bring it out. So let's move on to tablet. In the artboard sections on the right hand side with the options, we have tablet. So supposing you are done with your UI for a particular page, and right away you want to also create a responsive version of it, you don't have to worry about it. You just have to come and then choose a particular tablet size from the artboard sessions that we have. So we have an iPad, we have an iPad Pro 12.9 inches. So let's try that one too, and it creates it for us. We'll move on to the web or the desktop version. So here, that is what we actually have. We'll have a web of 1920 by 1080, which is written here. That is the 1920 by 1080. And then we have 1366 by 768, and we have 1280, and then 800. So there are also the variations of the web or the desktop views that you can choose from. Aside that, there are also artboards for social media. So you have the Instagram story, Instagram post, Twitter post, whatever, and all that you have. We have watches. We have the watch for 45 mm, the watch 44 mm, watch 42 mm, watch 40 mm, watch 38, and let's try one of them and see what happens. and it's also create an artboard for it. The essence of these things are basically our web or UI designs are basically centered on the web and the desktop version. The essence of these is that websites are responsive. And what do we mean by saying websites are responsive? When we say a responsive website, it's a website that resizes its arrangement and some text and its features when it's being projected on a different device. So mainly, most of the time, our web or our UI designs are being made on the web and the desktop view, and then because of the responsiveness, we choose from any of these, mostly tablet, iPhone, and maybe a watch. But most of the times it is about phones and our tablet and the web view. So that is the essence and the importance of these things. So we are going to add another web or desktop view to it to show you what I was talking about in identifying to avoid confliction and confusing when you are designing the pages of your website. So let's add another one. A quick tip. So for you to be able to move around your working space and your artboard, you have to hold the space bar, click and drag to be able to move around. Hold Control and select the plus icon to zoom in, and the minus, Control plus the minus to zoom out. So this is what I was actually talking about. So you can see that there's no difference between our web, our first page and our second page. All right. So to avoid this kind of confliction, you can literally or basically rename the artboard. So all that you have to do is to double click on the name of the artboard, and you can name it whatever name it is, whatever artboard that it is. So I'll call this home. Double click and I'll call this blog. And now I can move around holding my space, in and out, in and out. Okay, so this is all you need to know about Adobe XD Adboard. Next in our tutorial, we are going to look at shapes in Adobe XD. Stay with me. Okay, welcome back from the break. So in this part of the tutorial, we are going to learn about shapes in Adobe XD. And on the left hand side of our working area or our working space of XD, the tool side, we have 4 different types of tools that are going to enable you to draw any kind of shape that you want to draw. So we are going to begin with a rectangle, and the rectangle has a shortcut of R. Remember, I told you that any tool that you are going to hover over, that it's going to give you an alphabet in a bracket, shows that that is a shortcut for selecting that particular tool. So let's select the rectangle. We are going to draw a rectangle. We've been able to draw our first ever rectangle in Adobe XD. Now, whenever you draw a shape and then you see this blue line around it, it means that that particular shape is active. And on the right hand side of our design space and our working space, there are so many options to the active selected shape. So we have the component, the repeat grid, we have the fixed position when scrolling, responsive size, and a lot more. And what we are going to focus on right now is the color section. So we have the fill and the border. So with the fill, currently our active shape is white. So we can choose, double click from here, click from here, and choose whatever color we want to give to our shape. The same way we can click on the border and give it whatever shape that we want. But because of the size of our border is 1, it's not really being visible. So let's increase it to about 20. The opacity is down, so let's increase it to 100. And the border, $20, and we have a nice border around our shape. Now, to be able to transform the angles and everything of this shape, you can see that there are round circles with a dotted figure at the inside the four corners of this particular active rectangle. So this shows that you can actually click and drag any of these angles to make the edges round or curve. So let's try that and see. This is when you want an equal proportion of all the borders being round. Whichever way, if you want only one side of the shape that you've selected to be curved or round, so you simply have to hold Alt, hover over the particular part that you want, and you see that from where we've hovered, it has actually turned blue. So you click and you drag to make only that particular corner of the shape round. Now let's move to the next shape tool. So we have the circle. So you click and you drag to have your circle. Now, to have the properties of these shapes are mostly alike, just some few changes that happens with each of them. So with a circle, if you want to draw an equal proportion of the circle, you don't draw freely. You simply have to hold Shift, click and drag to have an equal proportion of the circle. But if you want to draw freely and not have an equal proportion of it, you just have to draw freely to get something like an oval or something else. And let's change the color. Can change let's make this one active. Change the color. Make it active. Mind you, if you do not make it active, you do not have the properties on the right hand side active. So before you apply any changes to any shape in SD, first of all you have to make it active, and then you have the properties on the right hand side to be able to manipulate and transform it. The shape tool that is next is the triangle tool. So you select the triangle tool, and to get a proportionate figure, you have to hold Shift, click and drag to get a proportion or a definite figure. If not, if you draw freely, it is going to give you a different size of it, and that is not what we want. The difference with the triangle tool is that it only has one circle at one corner of the triangle, which means that the effect that you are going to apply to this particular circle will have an effect on the other angles of the triangle. Okay, so let's try that and see. Let me change the color first so that we can know what is really going on. Make it active, and you see it has turned blue. So we click and drag, and all the other angles of the triangle follows, because it has only one circle that causes the effect, unlike the rectangle tool that has 4 different circles at each corner of the rectangle. This is not so. And then the good news about this triangle is that it also has a distinct circle at one side of it, which helps you to manipulate the triangle into whichever form to a star and to whichever form that you want, so you can change it. And at the properties panel, you can change the corners of it from 3 to about 5 to get a different shape. And here the same thing happens. You can click and drag this to get a star, so you don't necessarily have to bring in a star into Adobe XD. The next shape that we are going to talk about is the line tool. And with the line tool, while we hover over the line tool, it gives us a shortcut of L. And all that you need to do is to click and drag to draw the line. Now, to get a straight line, you need to hold Shift to get a straight line when you draw. Or if you want to have a free line, you can leave the Shift and then you can draw a free line to whichever angle that you want. So these are the shapes that are going to help you to work seamlessly and help you be productive in Adobe XD. Next, we are going to talk about the text tool and the effects and its options and effects in Adobe XD. I'll be right back. Welcome. So in this section of the tutorial, we are going to learn about text and text box options. So there are two ways of selecting text in Adobe XD. One of them is moving to the tool section of Adobe XD and selecting T for text tool, which simply means text tool. And when you hover over the text tool, it brings out a pop-up which puts the alphabet T in a bracket, and that means that the shortcut for selecting text is T in Adobe XD. So we are going to look at the auto width, auto height, and fixed width in Adobe XD. Auto width. So auto width in Adobe XD simply means that Adobe XD uses the default auto width as the normal default settings for text whenever that you type. So for instance, if I type text, auto width enables the text to continue in a line in Adobe XD. Let me zoom in. When I'm done typing, and I want to zoom in or out proportionally, you could see that when the box, the active box where the text is typed is selected, there is a round circle beneath the text. So when you hold that, you drag in to a particular point, it increases the text proportionally. So you can either hold, drag in or out to scale it up proportionally, whichever way that you want. Now, it also, for instance, if I want to continue to type, it will continue from the same line in XD. So that is what we literally mean that auto width. So the width of the text automatically adjusts, and that is the default settings for text in XD. The next one is auto height. So the next option is the auto height. So when you select in the properties panel, this is the auto width and this is the auto height. So the auto height ensures that text moves to the next. The height of the text space expands and text moves from one line to the other without any distortions or any problem. So let's practice for you to see what we are really talking about. So I'll continue typing, and you can see that the text has moved to the next lane and the text area has been adjusted because we are talking about the height width. We have selected the height width, and which enables this effect to happen. So that is the auto height. Next on the list is fixed width. Now the fixed width in the properties panel is next to the auto height. So when you select the fixed width, it literally says that the box per which, or the text box per which you've created for the text can only fit in there, and then any extension will not be shown. So let me show you what we are really talking about. So the same way, I'll continue typing. And now you can see that if it was the auto height, the height of the box, the text box, would have opened and the text would have been included. But here is the case, it did not open because we've specified a particular area per which we want our text to be. And then the bottom circle, the base circle, or the side circle at the base has been red, telling us that there is some font that is beneath it, but because we've specified a particular area per which we want our text to be shown, the rest cannot be shown. So what we can do here is either to adjust it and open up for it to come, or we can decrease the size. If maybe you are working on a project and the area per which you've given from the wireframe you've given to your text, you want your text to fit in that space, you either have to decrease the text or the font size of it so that it can fit in the space. So here I'm going to decrease it by taking it to about 40, and you can see now every text is now showing in my text box. Okay, so that is everything you need to know about text box options. Next, we'll be talking about our pen tool in Adobe XD, so stay with me, I'll be right back. Welcome. In this section of the tutorial, we are going to learn about the pen tool. There are also two ways of selecting the pen tool in Adobe XD. One, by moving to the tools panel to select, and two, by using the shortcut. So the shortcut for the pen tool is P. Normally, if you are used to the pen tool in other softwares, it's normally the P. So we are going to select our pen tool, and then we are going to draw freely. If you want to draw a straight line, you hold Shift to be able to draw a straight line. But if you want to draw freely, you can leave Shift and you draw freely. You close up the point and you have the shape being active. Down here, you have access to giving it colors, giving a border. Let's increase it to 20. Giving the border preferred shape that you want. Let me zoom in so that we'll see what will be going on here. So you can give it this shape, round, straight, box, and what have you. We can put the strokes at different places of our shape. We can put it outside, we can put it inside, and we can put it at the middle. So whichever way that is good for you, you can choose. Now you can double click to make it a curve. You can double click this point to also make it a curve, and when the curve is made, you have these arcs and angles to adjust your curve whichever way that you want. You can adjust it whichever way that you want to tweak or adjust it. Okay, so let's try another line with the pen tool. So this time around, I'll draw a line, hold Shift, and make points in the line. I'll double click to make them active, and this will enable me to be able to adjust them whichever way I want. And beneath it, I can increase the stroke to about 5 or 10. Make the edges round. And add a bit of touches to the angles. Round meter joints, round joints, bevel joints, whichever way you want to make your work or your shape appealing, you have solely control over it. Whichever way you want your shape to be appealing, you are solely in control of it. So that is all that you need to know about the pen tool as well. Stay with me as we go into the layers panel of Adobe XD. I'll be right back. Welcome. In this section of the tutorial, we are going to look at libraries, layers, and plugins. So at the bottom left hand corner of your screen, you find some 3 icons, and the first one is the libraries. So this helps you to put together your colors, your components, your character styles, videos, and what have you, that is going to enable you to carry out your project. The next one that we are going to look at is layers. Layers, if you are that familiar with Adobe Photoshop, it's quite similar. You have the same features. So any element or shape that you put in your artboard gives or creates a layer for it. Adobe XD creates a layer for it. So for instance, let me hide it and let's try some few things so that you know what we are talking about. So I'll draw a circle. Let's give it a color. Draw something different. Give it a color. Okay, so we open our layers panel, and then you realize that this is the ellipse, and here you can either lock it or you can hide it. All right, the same thing applies to the polygon one. So this is the layer for the polygon one. So anytime you select a layer, the shape or the element on your artboard is active, and anytime you make any shape or element on your artboard active, a layer is selected. Then we'll move on to plugins. So if you have any external plugins that is going to help you carry out your work, XD has numerous plugins that you can think of. So we'll be getting to know them. We'll be getting ourselves familiar with some of them during our design journey. Okay, so aside these features, there are some few other things I would want to talk about. Aside the design space, we have the prototype space where you do the prototype, and you have the share space where you can share with your teammates, and there is the preview session where you have the chance to preview whatever that you've made. So you see it, yeah. So this brings us to the end of today's tutorial. If this video was helpful to you, kindly give it a thumbs up so that YouTube can recommend it for others to benefit. If you are here and you're still not subscribed yet, kindly subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit the notification button to get notified anytime we post a video. Once again, my name is Design Goals, and see you in the next episode. Bye.